He didn't cheat. He didn't lie. But one notification exposed a $32,000 secret she was never meant to see. And suddenly, everything she believed about her marriage felt uncertain. Stay with me, because this isn't about money. It's about what was hidden behind it. Alex, I need you to stay with me on this one, because when I first heard this story, I didn't even know how to label it. It didn't look like cheating. There were no messages, no late nights, no obvious lies. Just a number. $32,000?
That's not just a number. Where did it come from?
That's exactly the problem. It came from a place she didn't know existed. This is about a friend of mine. She's been married for years. Stable life. 2 incomes at some point. Then she stayed home for a while. Normal, quiet, everything looks fine kind of marriage. Nothing dramatic. Nothing suspicious. At least, that's what she thought.
So how did she find out?
By accident. And that's the part that makes it worse. Because she wasn't looking for anything. She wasn't checking his phone out of doubt or insecurity. She just needed to confirm a payment. Something small, routine, and then a notification appeared. Not from their shared account, a different bank, a different balance. $32,000.
And he never told her?
Not once, not even a hint. And I want you to picture this moment carefully, because this is where everything shifts. She didn't scream. She didn't confront him. She didn't even move right away. She just stared at the screen, like her brain was trying to decide if what she was seeing even made sense.
What was she thinking?
She told me the first thought wasn't anger. It was confusion. Then something quieter, something much heavier. She thought, if this exists, what else exists that I don't know about? And when she told me that, I realized something I hadn't fully understood before. This wasn't about money. It was about reality.
Reality?
Yeah, because in her mind, their life had one version. Shared decisions, shared future, shared trust. But in that one moment, a second version appeared. One she was never invited into. And here's where it gets uncomfortable, Alex. He wasn't a bad guy. He worked hard. He provided. He showed up. There were no obvious signs of betrayal, which made the question even harder.
So what do you even call that?
Exactly. What do you call something that doesn't look like a lie, but still feels like one? Welcome to MTP MindTalk podcast. My name is Emma.
And I'm Alex.
And today, I want to walk through this story with you. Not just to tell what happened, but to understand what it means. Because, I'll be honest, when she first told me, I didn't immediately take her side. I had questions. I was curious. Part of me even thought, maybe it's not that serious. But the more I sat with it, the more I realized something that made me uncomfortable. Secrecy doesn't need to be loud to change everything. So stay with me, because this story doesn't explode. It unfolds. And by the time it's over, you might find yourself asking the same question I did. If someone hides money from you, are they protecting something? Or are they protecting themselves from you? And maybe that's why what came next felt even more unsettling, because nothing around her life actually changed, but the way she saw everything did.
So she didn't confront him right away?
No. And that surprised me at first. But when she explained it, it made sense. She said, I didn't even know what I was reacting to yet. Because if this had been something obvious, like spending money recklessly or hiding debt, it would have been easier to understand. But this was just quiet, careful, almost invisible.
So instead of reacting, she started observing?
Exactly. And this is where the story gets deeper, because she didn't go looking for more evidence. She started looking backward, at conversations they had about money, at decisions they made together, at moments that once felt normal, but now felt incomplete.
Like what?
Like when she would ask about savings and he would give general answers, not lies, just not specific. Or when big financial decisions came up and he handled them quickly, confidently, without much discussion. At the time, she thought that was a strength. She trusted him. She thought, he's taking care of things.
And now?
Now she started asking a different question. Was I included? Or was I just comfortable not asking? And that question changed everything because it shifted the focus from what he did to what she assumed.
So this wasn't just about him hiding something.
No, it was also about the space that allowed it to stay hidden. And I remember asking her, did you ever clearly define how you both handle money? And she paused, not because she didn't want to answer, but because the answer was simple. No, they had never really sat down and said, this is ours, this is yours, this is how we decide. They just lived, made decisions as they came, trusted the process, trusted each other.
So everything felt shared without being clearly shared.
Yes. And that's the part I keep thinking about. Because when something is assumed, not defined, it leaves room for interpretation. And people don't always interpret things the same way.
So in his mind, maybe this wasn't wrong.
Exactly. That possibility started to bother her even more. Because if he didn't think it was wrong, then how long had he been living with a completely different understanding of their relationship? And here's the truth that hit me while listening to her. Trust doesn't break the moment something is hidden. It breaks the moment you realize you never fully understood the rules in the first place. She didn't feel betrayed yet. Not fully. What she felt was something quieter, something slower, a kind of uncertainty that didn't have a clear direction. And that's what made it harder. Because you can argue with a lie, you can confront a mistake, but how do you confront something that was never clearly defined to begin with?
So she wasn't just questioning him.
She was questioning the foundation of everything they built together. And once that question appears, it doesn't go away easily. And once that question settled in her mind, it didn't stay quiet for long. It started showing up everywhere.
What do you mean?
Not in obvious ways. That's the thing. She didn't suddenly turn into someone checking his phone or digging through accounts. But internally, everything shifted. She told me, it's like I'm replaying my entire marriage, but with a different lens.
That sounds exhausting.
It is. Because now, every memory had a second version. Not a different event, just a different meaning. A simple conversation about money wasn't just a conversation anymore. It became a question. Was he telling me everything or just enough? And that's when I realized something I hadn't fully understood before. When one truth becomes uncertain, everything connected to it starts to feel unstable.
So it wasn't just about that one account anymore.
No. It became about her sense of reality inside the relationship. She said something to me that I can't forget. She said, I don't know if I'm overreacting or finally seeing clearly.
That's a hard place to be.
It is, because when you doubt your own reaction, you don't know how to act. You hesitate. You stay quiet longer than you should. And instead of confronting him right away, she started observing herself, her thoughts, her reactions, her emotions. She noticed she was asking different questions now. Not, why did he do this? But why didn't I see this?
So she started turning it inward.
Exactly. And that's where it became heavier. Because it's one thing to feel like someone else made a mistake. It's another thing to feel like you misunderstood your own life. She wasn't angry yet. She was unsettled, quietly anxious. And here's the part that really stayed with me. She said, I'm not checking his account. I'm checking myself.
What does that mean?
It means she was trying to understand if her trust had been real or just assumed. And that's a very uncomfortable place to stand. Because once you start questioning your own understanding, you don't know where the truth actually begins. And I think that's the moment when this stopped being about money completely. Because money can be counted, explained, tracked. But doubt spreads. And once it enters a relationship quietly like that, it doesn't ask for permission. It just stays and waits for more questions to grow. And once that doubt settled in, it didn't explode into a confrontation like you might expect. It actually led to something quieter, something more uncomfortable.
She finally talked to him?
Not right away. At first, she just needed to understand what she was even dealing with, because by that point, it wasn't just about what he did. It was about what it meant. So, when she finally brought it up, she didn't accuse him. She asked him calmly, almost carefully. She said, "Can you help me understand why this account exists?"
And how did he respond?
That's where everything shifted again. Because he didn't deny it. He didn't panic. He didn't even seem defensive. He just explained. He said it was something he started years ago, before things got stable, before he felt secure.
So it wasn't recent?
No. And that made it more complicated. Because it meant this wasn't a sudden decision. It was a pattern. He told her it made him feel safe, having something separate, something he could rely on, just in case.
Just in case what?
That's exactly what she asked. And his answer wasn't dramatic. It wasn't about her. It was about fear. Fear of losing control. Fear of uncertainty. Fear of not being prepared if something went wrong. And here's the part that stayed with me. He said, "I didn't think it mattered because I wasn't doing anything wrong."
That's complicated.
It is. Because in his mind, this wasn't betrayal. It was protection. And that's where the story becomes uncomfortable. Because intention and impact are not the same thing.
So even if he didn't mean to hurt her,
He still changed how she felt in the relationship. Because what he protected for himself, he kept separate from her. And separation, even when it's quiet, creates distance. She told me later, "I understand why he did it, but I don't understand why I wasn't part of that decision."
that sounds like the real issue.
Exactly. Not the account, not the amount, but the absence of transparency. And that's when I realized something I hadn't thought about before. Secrecy doesn't have to be malicious to be damaging. Sometimes it grows out of fear. Sometimes it feels reasonable. But over time, it still creates a version of reality that only one person lives in. And the moment the other person sees it, everything shifts. And maybe that's why what happened after that conversation didn't feel like an ending. It felt like a quiet shift they couldn't ignore anymore.
So they didn't break up or anything like that?
No, that's what makes this story feel real. Nothing dramatic happened. No doors slammed, no ultimatums. But something changed in a way that couldn't be undone. She told me, "I understand him now, but I don't feel the same."
That sounds subtle, but heavy.
It is, because understanding someone doesn't automatically rebuild trust. Sometimes it just explains the damage. After that, their conversations became different. Not louder, just more careful, more aware. She started asking questions she never asked before. Not just about money, but about decisions, about how they saw their future, about what shared actually meant to both of them.
And how did he respond to that?
He tried. He answered. He opened up more. But here's the truth, she admitted to me. Even when he was being honest now, part of her was still wondering what she might not see yet. And that's the part people don't talk about enough. Trust doesn't reset just because the truth comes out. Once you realize there was a version of reality you weren't part of, you don't just forget that feeling.
So what did she do with that?
She didn't rush to fix it. She didn't pretend everything was okay. She said something that stayed with me. I don't need perfection. I need clarity.
That's a strong line.
It is, because she wasn't asking him to never make mistakes. She was asking to be included in the truth. And from that point on, their relationship didn't become perfect, but it became more intentional. They started having conversations they avoided before about money, about fear, about control. And I think that's the part I keep thinking about. This didn't end their relationship, but it forced them to finally define it.
Define it how?
What is shared? What is private? What is acceptable? What feels like crossing a line? Because before this, they were just living together. Now, they were actually understanding each other. And here's the truth I walked away with after hearing her story. Nothing was broken in a way you could clearly point at, but something had been missing all along. Not love, not effort, but clarity. And once you see that, you can't go back to not seeing it. And when I sit with this story now, what stays with me isn't the number, not the 32,000, not the account. It's the silence around it.
Yeah, it feels like the money was just the surface.
Exactly. Because money is measurable. You can count it, explain it, justify it. But what you can't measure is the distance that grows when something important is kept unspoken. I think what I learned from her story is this: financial infidelity doesn't always look like betrayal. It doesn't always come with bad intentions. Sometimes it comes from fear, from insecurity, from a need to feel safe. But here's the truth that's hard to ignore: secrecy, even when it feels reasonable, still creates separation.
So it's not about whether the reason makes sense, it's about what it does to trust.
Yes, because trust isn't just about honesty when you're asked. It's about transparency before you're questioned. And if I'm being honest, I think a lot of people don't realize they're crossing that line. Not because they want to hurt someone, but because they never clearly defined where the line was in the first place. So, here are a few things I took away from this. First, don't assume you're on the same page about money. Talk about it clearly, even if it feels uncomfortable. Second, if you feel the need to hide something, ask yourself why. That question alone can reveal more than the action itself. And third, don't wait for something to break before you define what trust means in your relationship.
That last one feels really important.
It is. Because by the time something feels like a betrayal, it's usually been building quietly for a long time. Now, I'm really curious about you. Do you think hiding money in a relationship is a form of betrayal? A, yes. B, no. C, it depends. D, I've never thought about it. Leave your answer in the comments. I'd genuinely like to hear how you see this, because there's no single right answer. And your perspective might help someone else think more clearly about their own situation.
Yeah, these conversations matter more than people think.
And if this story made you pause, reflect, or see something differently, don't forget to subscribe to MTPP Mind Talk podcast to support the channel and help us keep creating more real, honest stories like this.
We've got more coming.
Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.